Okay, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so one of the, sometimes in order to fill out the story in Chumash, you need to know a little bit more of Tanakh, which is, one of my pet peeves, that people don't know Tanakh. So, in this case, if I asked you, okay, the Jews at this point in Parashat Shemot, right before the process of the Geula begins, what was their spiritual state? Right? Are they righteous? Are they evil? Are they idolaters, monotheists? Right? What would you say? What's your guess?
Very low. I would say monotheists. Yeah.
Good. It's a machlokes between, Eli agrees with Yechezkel, and Ariel disagrees with Yechezkel. Don't worry, he has, despite that, you have Rishonim on your side, but we'll discuss it very briefly. There's actually an extensive discussion in Yechezkel. Parak Chaf.
You mean before they had a Geula, or before they were made slaves? Or there's a spiritual...
No, like during the slave period. During the slave period.
Oh, okay.
Before Geula. Right? So, so if you look in Yechezkel, in Parak Chaf, so Yechezkel says, "Vayomo nasati yadi lahem lotzia me'eretz Mitzrayim el eretz asher tarti lahem zavat chalav udvash tzvi l'chol ha'aratzot." On that day, I picked up my hand to take them out of Egypt, to take them to the land that I'd chosen, Menachum, eretz zavat chalav udvash. V'amar alehem ish shikutzei einav hashlichu uvigilei Mitzrayim alti tamo ani Adonai lechem. And I told them, do me a favor, get rid of your idols. Do not make yourself impure with their idols, because I'm God. Right? So, first, the pasuk tells you explicitly they have idols. Right? God said, on that day that I tried to take them to Egypt, they had idols. And then it gets worse, because in pasuk Chet, it says, "Vayamru v'lo avu lishmo Elai ish shukutzeirem lo eshlichu that gulei Mitzrayim lo azavu v'amar l'shproch chavati aleim lechalot api bahem b'toch eretz Mitzrayim." And even if I asked them explicitly to get rid of their idols, they rebelled against me and they said, "No, we're not getting rid of idols. We refuse." And I was furious and I wanted to destroy them. Va'as leman shmi levilti echel leinei hagoyim asherim v'tocham asher nodati aleihem leineim lotziam eretz Mitzrayim. But for my name, I had no choice, and I took them out of Egypt. V'otziam eretz Mitzrayim v'aviem el hamidbar. Right, and then I took them out of Mitzrayim. I took them to the Midbar. Right, so the simple shot, at least in Yechezkel, is that things are egregious, right? They were terrible, right? I don't know whether that actually means there was no nevuah, or what it means is that even after Moshe initiates the relationship, they're still worshiping idols, right? But the point is that the way Yechezkel describes it is they were idol worshippers. Even when God Himself, so to speak, says, "Get rid of your idols," they say, "Nah, we're okay. We like our idols." And many of the midrashim actually take this exactly as it sounds. In the Tanchuma, in Shmos Rabbah, and they write Yosef bris milah. Right, when Yosef died, they stopped doing bris milah and amru nihye kemitzrim. They said, let's be like the Egyptians. And kevan shirah. God got rid of the love that He loved them. And the Midrash says not only were they idolaters, but this became the reason that they went into slavery. Right? I mean, the Midrash in Tanchuma uses the background of Yechezkel to explain why the Jews, in addition to the prediction of Avram, but in a justice sense, why did the Jews deserve to be enslaved and tortured? Because they were terrible, they were atrocious, right? And again, this comes up in the Tanchuma, it comes up in Shmos Rabbah, it comes up in Shir Hashirim Rabbah, and Shir Rabbah, it goes even farther, and it says that the Geula was hard for God. Right? It was like painful for Him to have to do this, because it was so undeserved. And He only did it because He promised that he would do it, right? It was like Bal Korcho, it was against justice. The Rambam takes this position in several places, right? The Rambam in the Yad, in Hilchos Avodah Zarah, Perek Aleph Halacha Gimel says this, that they were idolaters. In the Egeret Hashmad, he says not only were they idolaters, but they were involved in all types of arayos, so they were sexually corrupt, and now, on the Al HaTorah website, they suggest that this, at some level, it might be, one of the big questions in the Parshas, did Moshe actually mean? Was there ever part of the plan to actually only leave for 3 days? They suggest that it could be that maybe, right, he had to say 3 days because the Jews, right, were at a level they couldn't have even swallowed the notion of going with God. Like, okay, we'll try out God for 3 days, like maybe, right? But, okay. Now there's a second there's a second tradition, which is that they did worship idols, but they had some redeeming qualities, right? So think the Midrash that says that they didn't change their language, right? They didn't change their clothes, right? They maintained some Jewishness, even if they were maybe idolatrous. The Abarbanel in several places said maybe they were, they did worship idols, but they also believed in God, and that's why they cry out to God, right? The Psukim do say they cried out to God to be saved. So maybe, this was some sort of, what you often had in that time, some sort of syncretism, right? That they had corrupted belief. They believed in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but they also believed in Avodah Zarah. It's not a great situation, but it's something. Right? And that, of course, it goes a long way in explaining why, during the process, God is pushing them along with Korban Pesach and the like, is getting them to actively reject the Avodah Zarah, meaning there's hope for them, but it does need to be pulled out of them. Now again, in several Midrashim, they pull out different possibilities of mitzvah they might have done. In some of them, right, some Midrashim say they didn't say Lashon Hara, some focus on the fact that they kept their Jewish names, that they spoke Hebrew, some Midrashim say that they go against the Rambam and say maybe they were idolatrous, but they maintained sexual purity, which was not the norm in Egypt. Now again, all of these Mefarshim are going in the direction of trying to explain if in fact they were idolaters, in what schus they were redeemed, and that's why they're playing with this and saying, okay, there were some redeeming qualities. They weren't totally Egyptian, but in the Hanami they were idolaters. The Ibn Ezra, Radak, Sforno, they suggest that maybe what's going on is, they were idolaters, but eventually they do some sort of tshuva, and that is part of Moshe's mission, right? Or maybe right before Moshe's mission they did tshuva, and that's part of what makes God listen to them. Another position... What?
According to us, they kept culture, like their clothes, their language, and their names. Why does that make a difference? These are just sort of arbitrary cultural factors.
So correct, meaning it means that they kept Jewish culture even without Jewish theology, and that Midrash says, there's some redeeming value there. It's not obviously great, but it's enough for God to start the process. And again, that explains why much of Yetziat Mitzrayim is the Jews themselves having to reject Avodah Zarah, meaning it's a petach for God to encourage them to do tshuva. Obviously, it's not sufficient. But now Reb Nehemiah in the Midrash says, well, maybe there were some idolaters, right? Maybe you can explain it. There were some idolaters, and there were some who didn't worship idols. He suggests that maybe it's some Shvatim, maybe Reuben, Shimon, and Levi didn't worship Avodah Zarah, or something like that. Now, again, like I said, the majority position is either they were all idolaters, or they were mostly idolaters, or they were idolaters with some redeeming qualities. But despite that, some of the Mefarshim really do go in the direction of Ariel against Yechezkel and say, forget Yechezkel. They were Gans Tzadikim. They never worshipped idols a day in their life. It never happened. Forget what Yechezkel says. We don't learn Navi. It's fine. But not quite that bad. But But you find this in the Midrash in Eliyahu Rabbah. You find it in Rav Chazdai Kreskes in several places. You find it in the Ran. So how do they deal with Yechezkel? So the easiest way of dealing with Yechezkel is to say that maybe it only applied to a small group of people, right? That Yechezkel, as part of his Musar, is talking about a small group of people who are particularly idolatrous, but maybe that really is the minority, and Yechezkel is, for Musar purposes, presenting a skewed picture rather than the rosy picture that was actually going on. But it's a sort of a hard read, right? The read of Yechezkel really doesn't sound that way. But to be fair, this really does make sense because, yeah. Okay, fine. But anyways, big kitzur, those are the three main positions. But like I said, you need to understand a little bit more of Tanakh to have a fuller picture. Enjoy the Mishkan at the escape room. I'll see you guys on Sunday, okay? Have a good Shabbos.